What's going on, everybody? This is our Unit 6, Day 5 lecture, something like that, I'm pretty sure. And we're talking about the United States in World War One. Now, up to this point, I asked you guys right now, would you go fight in the war? Why would you go fight in the war? We looked at all the machine guns, we looked at the poison gas and stuff. So why would you want to or not want to go fight in the war? This is a big thing that the United States had to answer in um, in 1914 when the war popped off. And just to be clear, the United States was a big country. It was really growing a lot. Remember, the last time we talked about the United States in world history, it was 13 colonies. Since then, in like 150 years, the United States had conquered all of the Americas, right? Took over everything coast to coast, and had even fought a war with Spain to get control of the Philippines, Guam, Puerto Rico, soft control over Cuba. We were an empire. And we were really on our way to becoming one of the most powerful countries in the world. So when this war of the most powerful countries in the world pops off, we have to decide, are we going to be about that? Are we going to get involved? And most Americans said, where did my pointer go? No, we don't want to be involved. The war happened in 1914. Our president at the time was Woodrow Wilson, and he said, we're going to pursue a policy of neutrality. We're not going to support the Allies or the Central Powers. And it was such a popular idea in the Americas that he even ran for a second term as president. He wanted to be president a second time, and his whole shtick was, Woodrow Wilson kept us out of war. War in Europe, peace in America. Right? I kept us out of war. Let me keep being president. I'll keep on keeping us out of war. And Americans were about it. They elected him again. And this was for two reasons, right? One, Americans didn't want to go run face first into a machine gun in the middle of France. They didn't want to die in a trench in France. So they were pretty excited to not be a part of the war. But also, the war was really good for the U.S. economy. It was really good for U.S. business. Because think about it. If all the young men in France are standing in a trench killing all the young men in Germany who are standing in a trench on the other side of no man's land, who's in the factory making guns? Who's in the field plowing food? Nobody. Well, you got to get that from somewhere. Why not buy it from the U.S., baby? So we're able to stay out of the war and continuously sell weapons and food to everybody involved in the war. We're making money. But that's all going to change. See, 2-3 years into the war, 1916, 1917, this war has started to take a change, right? Traditionally, how do you win a war? You conquer the opposing capital. The Germans want to conquer Paris. The French want to conquer Berlin. That's how you win a war. But with the trenches, that's not how it's going down. It's become pretty clear that the side that's going to win is going to be the last one fighting. Whoever doesn't quit first. That's called a war of attrition. Whoever doesn't quit first wins. Right? And so Germany comes up with a new strategy. They're fighting France and Britain. Britain's getting all this food and guns from the United States. Well, they're going to practice a policy of unrestricted submarine warfare. We're going to put submarines, a new invention, all around the coast of England, and we're going to blow up any boat that goes in or out of England. We're going to starve England on their island. And it works for a while, until one day they blow up a cruise ship, like a Carnival cruise, called the Lusitania. 1,300 people die, including 300 Americans. And America's pissed off. Germany doesn't want to fight America, but they're like, America, you were smuggling guns on the cruise ship. And America's like, no, we weren't smuggling guns. We were smuggling guns, though. There were lots of guns on the Lusitania. But that's not the point. Right? So, we tell Germany to stop with the submarines. They stop with the submarines. We stay out of the war a little longer. But then one day, a few months later, we intercept a telegram. Let me move my picture around. Germany sends a letter, a telegram, to Mexico. Why is my face stuck? Yeah, that's fine. This is called the Zimmerman telegram. It's a telegram from Germany to Mexico, right? The Germans are reaching out to the Mexicans and they go, hey, we intend to begin unrestricted submarine warfare. We're going to restart up unrestricted submarine warfare. This is what the Germans are telling the Mexicans. We shall endeavor, we're going to try, in spite of this, to keep the United States of America neutral. We're going to go back to doing the thing that they told us not to do, but we're going to still try and keep America neutral. However, in the event of this not succeeding, in the event that the United States joins the war on the side of the Allies, England and France, we make Mexico a proposal or alliance on the following basis. Make war together, make peace together. Generous financial support and an understanding on our part that Mexico is to reconquer lost territories in Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. See, the United States took this land from Mexico. We'll talk about that in U.S. history. But they took this land. We fought Mexico and took this land, and now the Germans are going, if you side with us, we'll get you all that. We'll get you Texas back. It's a big deal, right? Trying to drag Mexico into this war. Keep America and Mexico fighting over here so that Germany can defeat the France and the British over there. Well, Mexico never gets this letter. It gets intercepted by America, but America is now pissed off. They're on their last leg. And this is the speech that Woodrow Wilson, the peacemaker, he goes down to Congress. He asks them to declare war on Germany. And this is what he says. He says, it's too much. The world must be made safe for democracy. It's a peace that must be planted on the foundation of political freedom, political liberty. We got to make the world safe for democracy. Democracy like they have in England. Democracy like they have in France. And we got to defeat the king and the emperor of Austria and the emperor of the Ottoman Empire. We got to make the world safe for democracy. How's that sound to you guys? Our cruise ship gets blown up. We found out they're trying to get Mexico to attack us. We got to keep the world safe for democracy. Do you guys buy it? What do you think? Well, most Americans didn't buy it. People were pretty amped up, but not everybody. I want to pull a couple of historians in here, right? A couple of important people. This guy's W.E.B. Du Bois. He's a famous African-American historian from the time period. He was the first black man to get a Ph.D. from Harvard in the 1800s. Listen to what he says when this is going down. Conceive this nation, of all human people, conceive the United States of America, of all people on earth, engaged in a crusade to make the world safe for democracy. How could America condemn in Germany that which she commits just as brutally within her own borders? Woodrow Wilson, you want this to be a democracy? We got Jim Crow in the South. We got segregated bathrooms. The KKK is popular in the South. Women don't have the right to vote in America. You want to make the world safe for democracy? We don't have democracy here in 1914. So if the real reason that the United States went to join World War I was not democracy, was not freedom, then what was it? Well, let's go to J.P. Morgan. If you got a Chase credit card, if you ever heard that before, this is the guy who invented it. He was one of the richest men in the history of America, right? This is what he says about the start of World War I. The war opened during a period of hard times. Business through the country was depressed. Farm prices were deflated. The farmers aren't making any money. Unemployment was serious. The heavy industries were working far below capacity. Economically, we're not doing great when the war pops off. We're sitting at about 8% unemployment. That's almost 1 in every 10 people can't find a job. Not doesn't have a job, can't find a job. They're looking. Jobs aren't there. But look at what happens. When the war pops off, unemployment starts to go down. And then when we declare war, unemployment drops to almost 1%. And look, there's still the same amount of people working in factories. Factories, and people in them are even making more money. Average earnings go up. War is good for business. We're making money, and the more involved we are, the more money we make, baby. And this is going to have really serious repercussions in the United States because even though war is good for business, we take all these unemployed white and black men and we send them overseas to go fight in the trenches. Like, that's good. That's going to drop unemployment. Women, white women, for the first time in U.S. history, are going to leave the house, right? They've basically been domestic slaves up to this point. For the first time in history, they're going to be able to go into the factory and get their own jobs and make their own money and have that independence that you only get from having money. It's going to lead to them, well, also, black people, you remember the Great Migration from 8th grade, right? African Americans are going to leave the South where they're being oppressed and threatened and go to places like Oakland, go to places like Detroit, go to places like Minneapolis, go to places like Baltimore and Newark, right? And these are cities that even today have a large African American population because of the migration during World War I. They had to go get a job in these factories. It gave them that economic independence. But when the war is over, all these dudes come home. And they want their jobs back in the factories. But here's the problem. We're not making bombs anymore. The war's over. So a lot of those factories shut down. Unemployment rises. Women begin to demand the right to vote from the president. And as these competition for factory jobs continues in the post-war era, racial tensions increase. The summer of 1920 is going to be known as the Red Summer because of how many lynchings and violent attacks on black folk happen as a result of these white soldiers who are completely traumatized from World War I come back to the United States and find their way of life being totally changed. So again, World War I had an incredible impact on the United States, even though we weren't even involved in it until the very end. And that legacy is going to be something that we keep in mind as we get into World War II and even the world wars we have today. This is going to shape the foundation of our modern foreign policy. Good work today, guys.